Hello everyone, I'm Generation 3DX. Welcome back to my series on creating beautiful art in DAZ Studio. In this third part of the series, I'll be sharing everything I know about posing, that is, how to pose the articulated skeleton of your characters, along with their expressions, to produce realistic depictions of active or resting human beings. So by now you should know what a character is, and have probably purchased a third-party character you like, and maybe you have already begun customizing it. This was all covered in the last video. So with your character all loaded, then you'll want to start posing it. So let's get straight into how we can do this. Joining us today is Natalie, one of my characters. She's based on Muso's Lacey, which you would have seen in the last episode. Here she is. Right, now she's already set up with a pose that I did earlier. So this can demonstrate the goal that you're looking for, in that you have, you know, a nice looking pose there, which looks realistic, and it actually looks like something that one of these models would actually be posing in real life, one of these girls who knows how to strike a pose. So how do you get from the base zero pose? And I'll show you firstly how to start with a zero pose. You go into the edit menu, figure, and then you go to zero figure pose. You'll get this warning coming up which is about restore and zero. I'm going to cover that shortly to explain the difference between restore and zero, but for now we just want to do zero. It basically puts the character into the default setting. Right, so starting with that, we can see that there's no expression. The expression is neutral, the arms are out to the side, the arms are straight, the feet are flat. She's got high heels on now, so that looks weird, and we're going to cover high heels shortly, because they have their own little situation going on. So we can see here, we click on that foot, for instance, the bend, the side to side, and the twist are all zero. We could click on any other bone. Every other bone in her body is a zero. Okay, so that is the zero pose, or the T pose. Right, so how do we get from that to, if I just undo, to that? Well, that's the subject of this video, so let's do that. Okay, first things first, you've got a number of different ways that you can rotate a bone. Okay, so we'll start by selecting her arm. So this was with the selection tool. Now, without any of these other modes here, you can in any mode you can actually use this control to bend, and you can see here on the right hand side, you'll see these parameters move as I move this. So that's in the middle, and that's all the way extreme to one end. Now the reason that we have extremes is because characters are built in with limits, because the idea is that you don't want to actually create anything that's unrealistic. So in the case of your shoulder, you can twist your shoulder maybe about 80 degrees in one direction and 95 degrees in the other direction. So you can open up the shoulder there and then close it there. Okay, and then you reset to zero there. A handy tip you can have, so you can move these dials here as well. You can do this in any view mode. Okay, so there's front to back, and there's a bend there. The shoulder's an interesting joint because and you'll be spending a lot of time messing around with shoulders. In fact, shoulders and arms in general are the thing I spend more time on than anything else. And I guess that's because that expresses what humans do. I mean, humans spend most of their time handling objects or putting their hands in certain positions. And so it's starting from the shoulder, going to the, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself here, going to the forearm, and then going to the fingers, and then the fingers and the thumbs. They're the whole lot of fun on their own. I'm going to cover that in the power posing when I talk about hands. Anyway, let's just let's just backtrack here a little bit. So we've got her arm. We're looking at the shoulder. So you can use these dials here, or you can use these dials here in any view, in any view mode. To set to back to 0, you hover your mouse over one of these dials here, and you press Alt, and Alt click resets that to 0. Alt click sets to 0. Very, very handy thing to know. Right, okay, so that's your universal poser there. There's also this does some interesting things here. I don't particularly use that sphere because I don't really know. I think if you do up and down it does it in one way, and left and right does it another way. You can experiment with that, but I just go with, as I said, I just go with what I personally use and I find useful for my posing. My posing of models. Right, now you have, let's switch over to first we'll look at the rotate tool. So if you click on the rotate tool, I actually have mine set to a hotkey because I use this one all the time. This allows you to actually take the bone. Let's just take this other arm here. So you can see here the rotate, it puts a series of 3 circles all at right angles to each other on the actual joint, the articulation point. So this visualizes, allows you to very easily visualize what you want to do with the joint. Okay, so in this case it's actually bending it, and you can see over on the right hand side the bend is moving up and down, and the color blue corresponds to the color of the dial. Okay, and here we can rotate, we can twist the shoulder. So it's very intuitive. It's a very, very intuitive way to do this, and this is probably why I use this one more than any other. I mean, sometimes if I want to do fine control, I can get a finer control on this. Here it can be a little bit coarse sometimes, so it can be difficult to get a fine degree of control here. So yeah, this one gives you a much gentler degree of movement. So this is the rotate control, and see I've got mine hotkeyed to page down because I use it so much. Now there's another one, which is the translate tool. Translate tool is dependent upon you having what's called inverse kinematics turned on. Okay, and that's here. By default it's turned on. What inverse kinematics means is it's trying to guess what you're going to do with the body. Okay, so let me just grab her, so I'll rephrase that, grab her upper chest. I don't mean in that way, but now if I drag using the translate tool, a whole set of movements is occurring. Okay, it's a little bit uncontrolled in this case. A better example, let me undo what I did there. A better example is if I go over to the right hand thing. Right, so now if I take a hand, I can move her hand. Okay, and this is particularly useful when you're in the left or right view and you need to move the hands in a particular plane. Go over to the left view. I can move that hand there. Sometimes when you're trying to line up things, left view in combination with this translate tool for hands is particularly useful. If I was to go to the top view, I can move the hand back and forth along the plane that way, or I could move it side to side. Okay, now you notice here that she is if I get a bit extreme there, it starts to pull the whole body out. So how do you fix that? You don't want that to happen. So what you can do is, let's say we're going to work on this left hand here, but I don't want the shoulder to move. So I can do the pin. Sorry, I'll do that. Oh, sorry, I'm running ahead of myself here. You'll see that I click on the shoulder. There's a pin there. Click on the pin translation. So now, going back to top view, Notice I can pull all I want, and there's rotation going on there, but there's no translation going on the shoulder joint because I pinned the shoulder joint on translation. Okay, so that can be a particularly useful combination if you're having trouble getting the alignment right on a particular joint. Again, reset that. If I drag the hand again, now she's moving again. Okay, so that's about pinning, and this is the translation tool. Okay, so now there's a last one here. I don't personally use this one, but I think other artists actually find it useful, is the universal tool. This actually puts both the rotate tool and the translate tool together. So if I go back to the shoulder joint here, the reason I don't personally like this one is because I find it hard to read. So you can see here we've got the rotate red, so we could twist the shoulder. There's another one there, you can just about see it. When you hover over it, it highlights it. That's front and back, and I can't even see the blue one. This is why I don't personally like it, but for some people this is what they like, so they can actually do translation and rotation all in one go. For me personally, because I've got these two hotkeyed, I switch between them, boom boom, like that on two. I want to move it, I want to rotate it, like that. That works best for me. So that's basic. So that's it. That's your universal tool, rotate tool, and translate tool. Now there's another tool here called the active pose tool. I personally don't use it because it requires a degree of configuration to use well, and I don't fully understand why it does what it does, but you can see there's a certain smoothness of movement going on there, but there's a certain degree of a lack of control. So your hand is waving all over the place. If anybody has any insight into how active pose works, or has become experienced in using it, you can feel free to put something in the comments on that. But there's another tool that you can investigate using. I personally don't use it. Okay, so those are the basic pose controls, right? So now let's have a look at and before I knew about this, I was having so much trouble with hands. Okay, hands and fingers, as any human being would know who's got hands, because we all have, is they are very complex and they have almost more joints in them than the rest of the body put together. I don't know if that's actually true, but if you work out that each finger's got 3 joints in it and you got 2 hands, that's what, at least that's about 30 different joints. This is where power pose comes in. So if I click on power pose, I click on this symbol here, and we've got all of this control that we can use on the hands. Firstly, you'll see here you've got these ones which have got starbursts around them. These are kind of a composite move. So you can here you can see that on her left hand, it's actually causing a whole grab. It's causing a grab to occur. Okay, all the fingers and the thumbs, and the thumb is moving to all in one to create a grab. That's up and down motion on the mouse that does that. If I was to do a side to side motion, it's splaying the hand and bringing it together. Okay, this is an incredibly powerful way, because naturally hands, this is how naturally they operate. You know, they tend to, the fingers and the thumb tend to operate in unison when you're doing grabbing. You can use this composite effect on a particular finger, and I use these a lot too. If I've got the subject holding an object, or holding or putting their hand on their own body or on another figure's body, and it helps line up the fingers beautifully. If you needed even further finer control than that, let's take a ring finger. This is actually kind of an impossible thing with your actual ring finger because it has a limited amount of tendons, but you can do fine control on bones like that. Because selecting the bones in the skeleton is just a nightmare when it comes to doing fingers and thumbs. Okay, and you can say you can do the thumb as well. Sometimes I find the thumb, these particularly, because you do have very high degree of control over your thumb. Sometimes you can you'll need to do some extra rotations or something. Thumbs in general are very problematic. I find they're always getting in the way. They're never going where you want them to go. So just be prepared to spend some time, spend quite a lot of time on thumbs. Right, and so there's the other hand as well. So power pose with hands it's the way to actually work with your hands. Okay. Another good thing for power pose, if I click on the, going back to the body controls, there's a particular starburst one there. This can be useful to move the entire torso. Okay, so you can see this. She's bending forward, bending back, twisting the whole abdomen. Or if you do right click, then that's bending it side to side. There isn't any other easy way to do this, and sometimes you will want your figure doing that. Okay, so that's a very useful freebie that you can do there. There are other starbursts here, like you can move the whole arm. But again, that is something I don't really use because it requires a certain degree of 5-dimensional logic to figure out what exactly is going on when you're doing that. However, one thing I do use a lot is this one. This allows the whole head and neck to move in unison. Okay, because if you try to move the head on its own, which you can do, you could just rotate. Oops, you could rotate. In fact, that's actually moving the head as well, isn't it? I find it's more natural to use this one because the bones then work together in a more natural way. And you'll be wanting to do a lot of posing of the head and neck. It's a very expressive way to bring out emotion in your character. Is, you know, having her tilt her head one side or the other when she's looking at the camera. It can have a big effect upon the emotional impact in your scene. So again, this is one to use. I use a lot. In fact, with power pose, 90% of the time on power pose, I'm either using the head and neck, or I'm working on those fingers and thumbs, particularly the grab action. Okay, so that's your power pose. Enjoy. Now, I earlier touched on the 0 pose. So, edit menu, figure. You've got a choice of restore or 0 when it comes to posing. So, what's the difference between the two? 0. If I do 0 figure pose, there's a whole load of a wall of text here. I'm not going to read it right now, but basically, when you do 0 pose, it is basically putting the figure back to the absolute complete 0 of the of how the figure is actually is articulated right to the beginning. There's another one called restore, but that requires you to do a memorize. Why would you want to memorize a pose? Well, if you want to memorize a pose, it might be that you're working on a particular scene and you want to record that, and you might want to go back to it. That's all it does. So if I was to just move her arm here, just move her arms down to the side. Let's do this with using this one, get my fine control there. And we'll move her other arm down. So let's say we wanted that to be the standard pose for her while we're working on it. So what we can do is we go to figure and we go to memorize, and we memorize that figure pose there. Okay, so that's now memorized. If I move her around a little bit, do some other stuff here, and then I go back to, this time I go to restore. It's going to restore the memorized pose. So click on restore figure pose. There we go. So she's got her arms back to her side. The main reason I use that is in simulations. Okay, now simulations is kind of beyond the subject of this tutorial today, but there's a tab here which says start bones from memorized pose. Simulation is about using deformable or clothing that will respond to, or hair that will respond to gravity. And so you run a simulation to actually make it do that. It can be useful if clothes are kind of getting all jammed up, is you start from one pose and it will start that from your Memorise pose, and so on. Anyway, I don't want to get too much into that. That's going to be the subject of another of another tutorial another time, but it's just to cover the differences between zero and restore pose. Okay, so that covers general posing and power pose and zero and restore. So now let's talk a little bit more about expressions. Okay, expressions are where your character is lo and behold expressing themselves, and you can see here it's all going to be about the face. So here Natalie has got a neutral expression. Just trying to get a more flattering angle on the camera there. Right, so let's have a look at her on iRay preview. So here she is, completely neutral expression. How do we, in fact sometimes models, that's what you call excuse my French, that can be called a resting bitch face. Some people have a resting bitch face, which makes them look very annoyed or angry. It's just where all the it's where all the muscles in your face are relaxed. Okay, so, and that might work, and that often that does work in quite a few poses, because models want to create a kind of a sultry look or something like that. You know, it can create an atmosphere to have that natural expression. But very often you will want to work on the more fine control. Okay, so if you go into the posing tab and the head, you have all the different dials here, because what you have is that you have a facial rig. Okay, so here's the facial rig. These are all the different things that you can move on the face. But if you're wondering how I got that, by the way, it's on Tools and Joint Editor. Okay, so you can actually see. I don't use this. This is just for demonstration or educational purposes. So you can see what is possible that can be moved when it comes to expressions. Okay. So you cannot do any expressions. You can't use any of these tools for expressions. All expressions all have to be done here in your properties, posing properties. Right. So let's go into a bit more detail here. Let's say we want to do something with her eyes. We can. The simplest one is, of course, she's a Genesis 8.1. All right. So let's talk about that. Genesis 8, Genesis 8.1. and Genesis 9 all have very different dials, and you're just going to have to get to know the differences. I don't work with 9, I only work with 8 and 8.1, and believe me, half the time I'm kind of scratching my head thinking which one is this is this one, and this, and it's only through experience that you kind of get to know. In the case of the Genesis 8.1, it's called eye blink, and with eye blink we can close our eyes. Okay, very simple. Or if you want to make her do a wink, she's giving us a wink. Right, there's another one here. So eye blink is something I use a lot of. Let's just make her have a look at the camera. Just give me 1 second here. I've got a script here which does that. So she's looking at the camera now, and she's kind of wide-eyed. She's kind of got normal eyes. If you want to create a more sultry look, you can do this, and we just go to iRay preview. You can see there she's looking a little bit more sultry. But if you go too much, and this is very subtle, if you do too much, she's falling asleep. Completely different effect. So finding these little subtle percentages, and it will all depend upon the position of the camera, because eyes follow the camera and automatically they adjust. This is just something that you'll see in DAS models. She's looking right at the camera now, and she's got that sultry look on her face because of that eye blink. Okay, if I switch that off again, put it to 0, it's like she's more wide-eyed again. Okay, so you get a very different look and a tiny subtle change like that. And this is something that you'll get to know as you play more and more with your DAS characters. Oh, that's right. Yes. So I was going to rotate the camera down. Now, if I move the camera down, and she looks at the camera now, you see that it's automatically adjusted her eyes, which is what humans do. If they're looking down at you, they're looking down their nose at you, then they have that kind of look about them, as if they're kind of sneering noble. Okay. Conversely, can move the camera up, and the eyes are more open. And very often this is a more attractive and flattering position to have the camera with the model looking up at you. You can have a similar effect if I just move the camera right in front of her, go to power pose, and then tilt her head down. Okay, and then have her look at the camera again. So you can see she's looking up at you now. Again, that's a much more flattering pose to have for the eyes than it is to, do the converse, which is to, have her tilt her head back and look at you. Not as attractive. But then, if you want to create a scene where you have a king or a queen who's sneering at you and looking down their nose at you, well, that's probably going to work. But if you're looking for, beautiful models to show off their fine looks and so on, it's much better to have the that look instead. Okay, so there's another one called I Squint, which I use a lot, and this is often used in combination with a smile, because when a person smiles, they automatically squint their eyes. But now, what's an eye squint? So let's just do a squint. We'll do a full squint here. So this way you kind of scrunching your eyes together, but you're keeping your eyelids open. That's a little bit extreme there. Okay. So eye squint is used. You can use it on its own, as I'm doing here, or it'll be used in combination with another expression. Okay, there's another one here, eye wide, and sometimes this can be used to create a surprise look. Or like, hello, I'm very alert kind of look. Now, obviously this would cancel out if you were to do that in combination with eye blink. You'd never do this, but it's just an example of one can cancel out another. Okay. She looks quite sad there. That's an interesting look, actually. I don't think I've seen that one before. Or maybe it doesn't totally cancel out, because I think eye wide might be moving other bones in the facial rig as well. Anyway, you get the idea. Okay. So what else have we got on the eyes? We have eye look out and look down and left. I don't use these because I use I always have them almost always looking at the camera. You might not always want to do that, but generally speaking, my models always look at the camera, and these are taken care of automatically. I haven't set those figures, but if I was to move the camera and have a look at the camera again, now see, I didn't touch that. The camera rig did that for me. So these ones you don't usually need to mess about with. Okay, so that's the eyes. Now the other main means of expression in humans is with the mouth. Okay, and here we've got on the Genesis 8.1 we have a lot of different mouth and lip controls. I don't want to go through all of these in general. I'll cover the main ones, which you'll probably be spending most of your time on. And that's mouth smile. So what mouth smile does, it just does what you think it's going to do, but it doesn't change the eyes. The eyes stay the same. So the eyes are unchanged, but the mouth on its own just moved. So that's these bones here are stretching the to the left and right of the mouth that are stretching the mouth in a natural way. How do you open the mouth? That depends upon whether you're using 8, 8.1 or 9. With 8.1 you actually have to go to cheek and jaw and actually have to open the jaw. And usually only have to open it a short time. See, that's too much. If you just want to create a slightly kind of effect, models do this, so they'll open their mouth just slightly in order to create a certain effect, maybe a sultry look or something like that. Not so good with that, with the mouth not in a smiling position. But if we were to just give her a bit of a smile, that's still not quite right on Natalie. This touches on the whole general subject in that these dials have very different effects on different characters. So no one expression is going to work across all your characters. You're going to have to just do some work on finding what works best for one character or another. Okay. All right, just to close her mouth again. She's going to let some flies in. So this, and there are other ones which relate to the lips. And I do use these sometimes. You have mouth upper up, for instance, which can create interesting effects. Like she doesn't look really happy there, does she? And there's a mouth lower down. Where has that gone? Yeah, this can sometimes be more useful if you want to just do a pouting look or something like that. But yes, a mouth lower down, and you also have some asymmetry sometimes. You can do it on one side of a mouth if she's so you might want to have a finger there sometimes, you know, they touch their mouth on one side, and that can be used to create an effect in that way. There's also a pucker, which creates a kind of a kiss look. And there's another one similar to that called funnel, which I personally don't like, but that's as if you're kind of, I don't know, making an ooh sound or something like that. Anyways, incredible amount of expressions are possible, and if you are in the business of wanting to create super custom expressions, then you can play with all of these. One last thing I'm going to cover here is the cheek and jaw. You can do a squint, which can affect the eyes. Okay, so that's individual dials. Now let's talk about expressions. There are some stock expressions that come with all your basic characters, or there are additional expressions that you can buy on the marketplace. For instance, let's have a look at this smile full face here. So that says what it says it's going to do. If I set that to 50%, it's moved her mouth, and it's moved her eyes, and it's moved her cheeks as well. So she's got cheek squint, she's got a mouth smile, there's some dimpling going on there, and also her eyes are squinting. Okay, do that to the max, and she's very pleased to see you. Anyway, so that's a full face. There's another variant there which has this. I very rarely find this works well. Is the where she's opening her mouth and smiling at the same time. You have other ones like surprised. Actually, that's pretty good. That one, that's pretty good. Frowning. Oh yeah, you've said something she didn't like, and probably one you never ever want to see. Yeah, these are not too bad. Lacey she came with these ones as part of the character, but you can use these on any 8.1, so they're not just restricted to Lacey. But she has some very nice smile expressions. That's quite a subtle one there. She wants to smile, but she doesn't want to show you that she's smiling, if you get the idea. Yeah, so very natural. These are very natural looking expressions. And this is what you're paying for. Okay. There's some more I have here. I haven't really used these very much. You have new faces. You can see there's a whole suite of different angries. Yeah, that's actually pretty good. And some quite a lot of different types of happy as well. Well, maybe a bit happier than that. Okay. So, again, the concept of an expression is that you are using they're saved composites, which are composed of multiple different mostly mouth and eye and cheek and some cheek dials that are all. You see here, all these dials here, because of that one that I had plugged in on that expression there. Just set that to a slightly bigger one. You can see by going to the mouth, these are controlled and these are slaved to that master expression. It actually does still allow me to move. I thought it actually would lock them, but it doesn't. Okay, and again with the eyes, she's doing a slight squint on her eyes as well, and her eyes are slightly blinking. Okay, I think that's more than enough on the subject of expressions. I say they are incredibly important for bringing out that the humanity in your characters in a particular pose and scene. Since we, as human beings, we've evolved through apes and so on to take very, very seriously the signals that we get from the face to tell us what is going on with the other person. This is why so much time has been invested in Daz and with these other artists who are saving and creating saved expressions. There's so much time that has been put into those because they are so important to depict human beings and human behavior. Right, let's talk about saved expressions. Let's say you have a particular pose, a particular expression that you like, because you find that one of your characters, it's been hard to kind of find a particular smiling expression that you were having trouble finding. Okay, let's just reset her here. Now I said one of them was a particularly nice one, didn't I? Let's see if I can find this one again. Yeah, okay, so it's fine. Let's just go with this. So what we can do is say, yeah, I like that particular expression of Natalie here. So what I can do is you're going to go to File, and when you save as a pose preset. Actually, before I do this, before I go into expressions, because there's an additional nuance that you have to do here. Let's say you have a particular pose of the whole character that you want to actually save. I don't want to belabor this too much, but let's just move the hands forward and maybe just move a knee forward there. For whatever reason, let's say you wanted to save that. You can save that pose to recall later. So you do save as, it's very simple in this case, you do save as pose preset. You save that. When you do this, you get a pop-up that comes up here. Now, depending upon what you want to save in there, you usually don't want to save the transforms, because if you're saving the transforms, it's going to make a copy of exactly where in XYZ space she is. Okay, if you just want the actual shape of the particular joints, you just have the pose controls on, and you also need to have hip on as well, because that also will run through the all the different bones in the body and save those positions. Okay, so save that. Now if I zero the figure again, right, so she's zeroed again. So what I can do is I can go to my content library. You go into content library, and under my library, not my DAZ 3D library, such a confusing thing. My library is where you're storing your particular things. So you see here, I've got the demo there. Okay, under poses, presets, poses, demo. So if I click on that now, or double click on it, I get my pose back. Okay, right, so going back to the expression. So there's that particular expression that I liked. I only want to save the expression because I might want to apply that expression to her in a different scene, but without overwriting the pose on the rest of her body. Okay, so the way that you do that is you go into save pose preset, and here we just say Natalie smile. So now what we do is we turn off, we don't want anything on her body, turn off all that. We certainly turn off general. We go into pose controls, just turn that off, and you just turn it on for the head. So by turning it just on for the head, it's only affecting her expressions. So you can see here you've got brow, cheek and jaw, expressions, eyes, mouth, nose. Okay, so everything else is disabled. So what we'll do is we'll save that. So now she's saved there. Go back to perspective. So she's got her hands by her sides. Hang on, she's back on the restored that zero pose, that restored Memorise pose that we did earlier. Okay, so that I just saved her in that position with that expression, but I only saved the expression. Let's just move her around a bit. Oops, let me do that. Do some leg work. Now if I reload that expression, actually let's just change her expression to something else so we can see. Do something silly there. Oh no, I just want the smile. So we double click on that. Her body is unchanged, but it's now set that expression because we only saving the facial rig. That's all. Through the thing, and you notice here if I click on this one again, that's moving her body. You see, back to that other position. So you get the general idea that when you're saving poses, is how you save and what settings you do on the save will determine what portions get saved and what will not overwrite when you reload that pose. Okay, now we're almost done. Let's have a look at some poses that come with which you can buy. They come as kits, or sometimes they come with characters. In the case of Lacey, she had, as you saw, she had some expressions that came with her, which are very useful. Just reset the figure again. So we're back in the T pose. There's a set here called Coquette. I can't remember when I bought them. I must have picked them up at some point. So if I just double click on this now, this is something which will then change her whole body. Okay, and they almost always have regular and high heels, just for convenience. Why did she do that? I don't know quite why she just went and reset herself. Turn around again. There you go. So you can see you're buying something there which is giving you a whole complete look. In this case, because these are 8.1 compliant, Genesis 8.1 compliant poses, also affecting her expression as well. If you were to run this, if you explore target, you can see here this is for 8.1. If I was to run one which was only suitable for 8, and by the way, you can generally run 8 and Genesis 3 and Genesis 9 on Genesis 8s, but different things will only apply. Certain things that, for instance, expressions won't come through correctly if you're going from 8 to 8.1, because as mentioned to you, the rig, the whole facial rig is different on an 8.1 as it is onto an 8, and again different again with 9. Okay, so there's a whole set of expressions here. In fact, it's probably better to do another camera here so you can see that. Let's get down one of the lights. So there's a whole load of expressions that come with that. And again, I don't want to go into too much detail here, but for poses, they're covered here in smart content and poses. you can either browse poses by product. For instance, here there is a set of universal standing poses that I bought, and you can break them down into full or partial body. Remember I was talking earlier about when you're saving a pose, it will load it for a particular part of the body or the full body. In this case it's mixing up Genesis 8 and Genesis 9, so I have to do a filter here. G8F, it's going to be Genesis 8 female. Why did that not apply? That's probably because it's on a partial body, right? So there's a full body expression here, a full body pose here. She's looking at an imaginary phone there. And there are partial bodies which will move upper or lower half. These are hard to actually demo unless you're really getting into it. I mean, they've even got things like hand poses and so forth. Okay, so anyway, you get the general idea that there are a whole host of different poses that come off, basically just take so much of your workload away. By if you imagine that you wanted to try to get one of your characters from the T pose into a pose by moving every single bone, you're going to feel very, very frustrated, and it's going to be so much time spent. And that's how I originally started out. Was I was trying to move my characters explicitly, you know, all at once, without recourse to any of these saved poses. So you can see here, this is a pretty good one here. She's actually crouching down. So I was just getting the camera focused there. She's crouching down, but she's still looking at her phone because it's still recording one versus another in terms of a partial. So my general workflow is that, well, she's not actually lined up right really at all there, is she? It's probably because her hip is, yeah, the hip's not quite right. Is I will use a saved pose that I bought from a library, and then I will then refine it. Okay, so the general procedure is work with start with a pose that you have in mind that you want to use from a library, and then you just do fine-tuning of it in that way. Now, I earlier mentioned I was going to talk about high heels. She's got high heels on, although they're kind of casual high heels. They are still nonetheless high heels. Right, so this obviously is a mess because her heels are not lined up properly at all. She's using a particular product called Helena Platform Heels. If I was to go into poses there, you can see it's HPH, Helena Platform Heels for Genesis 8. I can click on this and it will actually line up her feet. It means I actually have to lift her up because obviously now she's slightly higher up. But now you can see that her heels are lined up nicely on the ground, and they can be a real pain otherwise. If you try to do it on your own, you'd have to pose and rotate the feet and everything like that. But these saved poses here that come with the products, usually they've already, in fact, if it's a good product, the shoe is going to come with the pose, and it's called a H pose, which is hierarchical pose. So you can either have that selected, or you could even have the whole figure selected and it would still do it correctly. Okay, so now she's got her heels nicely set up on the floor of the recording studio. Right, okay, so how do we put all of this together? I think the best way to do it is by actually having a demo, and here is one I've loaded earlier. So we say goodbye to Natalie and we welcome Kayla and Sansa, who are going to help us on this actual demo. So the idea is, so you have in your mind, you're thinking of a particular scene, okay, In the case of two characters, you're going to be thinking about how those two characters are going to interact with each other. In this case, we have a prop, which is a chair, and actually that chair does look quite big, so let's just firstly just scale that chair down a little bit. It looks more like it. Right, so the idea is, I have in my mind, I'm going to put Kayla in the chair, and Sansa is going to be behind the chair, either on her shoulders or on the actual chair rest. Let's see what we're going to do. So we're going to use all the different tools here that I've been talking about to create a piece of art with these two figures and the chair. So the first thing I'm thinking about is let's work out how to get Kayla in the chair in a natural way, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select her. So notice they're both in the T pose. I haven't even done the heels or anything, so this is starting right from scratch. So with Kayla, let's go to poses in the smart content, and we go by function, and we go for sitting. So we've got a whole load of sitting poses here. Okay, let's move that up. So we've got 3 rows there. Yeah, lots and lots of different sitting, people sitting down in chairs. So we're going to cut out a lot of the work here by just finding one that's going to be suitable. So let's see if I can find one of these. So you can see that's on a couch. That's not totally suitable. In fact, yeah, she's leaning over, so that's hopeless. We don't want that one. Well, you know what? The only way it is to try one and see how it looks. So there we go. So just loaded in this one here. Let's just kind of get her in position. So in the parameters tab here, you can just do X, Y, Z. Right, actually that's not too bad. I think I'm probably going to take that. And just go to the top view here. Now, so you can use your top view. And here we've got the translate tool. So we've got her Kayla selected here. And then we can use the translate tool to just get her positioned in the center of the chair. Let's get her right so that she's in the back. And then we use the rotate tool, flip around. Alright, so that's her lined up. Okay. Now, actually no, she's actually a bit high there. So let's just drop her down. Go perspective view here. Okay, so just having a general look there, that looks pretty good. In fact, actually that angle, that's almost perfect. I don't really have to do anything there. Okay. In terms of her body angle. Very good. Okay. Okay, so now we've got the, in fact, let's have a look at her foot. Let's do her foot first. In fact, the actual floor there, we just move that way. Okay, it's a studio floor. Right. Let's get this foot lined up on the floor. Now, what I could do is I could lift her thigh, but then that is potentially going to interfere, or it's going to make it unreal. If I did that to get the foot on there, well, I could do that, but let's just get her thigh so it's just kind of on the upholstery there. I'm going to do another video about deforming upholstery so that it looks more realistic when you have a figure sitting on there, but it's an advanced topic, so it's going to be beyond the scope of this video. Now, go to the translate tool. If I click on her heel there and then just start, and I lift it up that way. So that's one way to do it. But you see now, it's lifted her thigh above the chair. So this is quite tricky, this one, because I could move it like this, and then you got to get the heel lined up on the floor, and it takes a bit of patience to get it right. So that might not be the look you want, you see, because if I go back to the camera, the main camera, Let's zoom. Oops, I'm going to zoom in a bit here. Yeah, that's completely messed up. So because what it's done is put a thigh. I'm going to undo all of that actually, because that pose was dependent upon the thigh being lined up with the other leg, but we can always move the other leg. Okay, going back to the perspective view here. So how else can we get this leg lined up? We can drag it this way. So it's going to come out a little bit more. But then you see, because it's a high heel, ladies in their high heels, they drive you crazy. Let's just go with this and then just lift it a bit. Rotate again. See, I'm continually switching between rotate and translate. So this is why I don't use the universal tool. And then we've got a toes. We have to usually when you got the high heel there, you need to get the toe lined up. Is that actually on the ground? Let me have a look. It's almost there. So you spend quite a lot of time getting shoes to get on the ground properly. In fact, almost like the angle there is difficult because her leg is kind of extended. Let's move it back a little bit that way. That's going to work. Okay. All right, and then just check again. I find that eye is the best way to check for contact points. Yeah, that's fine. I'll live with that. Alright, now let's get this other leg sorted out. What I'm doing right now is like video game. I'm holding down the left mouse button and I'm using my WASD keys, like you do in any first-person shooter, to move the camera around the scene. That other thigh is looking pretty good. Looking at it from all different angles, you can see there's a bit of crossover there, but we can usually live with that because skin tends to deform anyway. The deformations, actually no, it's not really right. We need to actually do a rotation there. We need to twist her thigh, because you can see here that's crazy. That's just right. That's unnatural because it's cutting out right across her knee. But that we can probably live with that because there'll be a little bit of natural deformation of the calf against the knee there. Right, okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, now let's do our arms. Right, how are we going to do our arms? Well, first let's just get her straightened up like this. So now let's use the translate tool. Yeah, select her hand and then lift it. And that's not really going to work. So we may have to, let me just go over to right hand view. I'm going to use the left hand, I'm going to use the actual, try it this way. Not so sure. And let me just drag it this way. Alright, that might give us a bit more. Yeah, it's going to be a case of sometimes it's just a lot of different trial and error. I'm going to actually take a shoulder here. Let's just try to get her elbow. Move her elbow, move the shoulder forward. And then use the forearm. Flip that around. Twist it. Twist the hand. Yeah, that's not right either because her shoulder's been lifted up. I think it was by the earlier translation that I did. This is a collar. Yeah, that might be fine. Let's have a look at the other arm, see if we can do what we can do with that. What I'm going to do here is, because I think when I was moving the hand earlier, I'm going to actually just rotate the shoulder, rotate the forearm. Move that out. There, that's it. Move that. Let's get that hand down a little bit. Just translate on the hand there. And then use that one there. Then let's go to a power pose on that hand. Yeah, that works. Just rotate it. You can also rotate the hand on power pose there just for convenience sometimes. It's looking pretty good. In fact, yeah, that looks natural. So just have a look at that in iRay. I'm happy with that. Are you? Yep. Right, let's do this other hand. We're almost there. Kayla's almost done. Well, our body is. We haven't got our expression to do yet. We'll worry about that later. We're going to do Sansa's body, and then we'll do both expressions at the end, because we're thinking about emotion with expressions, and I haven't really thought about emotions. What are these girls thinking? I'm sat in a chair, and I'm watching her sat in a chair. Okay. So let's just get this sorted out. Just twisting the shoulder a bit there. Yeah. Actually, you know what? Let me look at their other arm there. That is natural. Yeah, see, her shoulder needs to come back a bit, I think, because what's going to happen here, if you look, that's just going to be weird. Okay, so let's drag that with a translate. No, that's not going to. It doesn't like that at all. I'm going to actually have to lift the collar a bit. Yep. That's it. Come to daddy. Ah, yeah. Rotate that back, twist it. That's almost there. Alright, and then power pose it. Yeah, they're still not. No, she's got long hands, Kayla. She's got an interesting skeleton, which doesn't quite like the other ones. Got very long fingers. I think that's it. I think I got it. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that looks pretty good. No, it's not. You can see there's a big gap there. So iRay will sometimes show things that don't come up in the main texture shaded. So what do we do there? We need to just rotate that down a little bit. Okay. Yeah, now it's actually, this is, you go back and forth with this stuff. Now it's on it too much. We need to just lift it a bit there. Try that. So you can say it's a continual process of translate, rotate, translate, rotate, translate, rotate. There you go. That's fine. There's Kayla. She's sat on a chair now. Look at that. We have a model from 0 T pose sat on a chair. And that didn't take too long. Alright, Sansa's going to be easier. Sansa's just going to be standing up. Let's pick a let's just pick a standing pose. There's so many standing poses. There you go. I've got a little script that takes me from one figure to another. Go to poses by function. We can use standing. And we've got to think about the fact that she's probably going to have her hands on the chair. So what we're thinking of is really a kind of a neutralish pose. I'm going to go to products and I'm going to load up this one. So go JF full body. Okay. Let's just try this one, this standard one here. It's kind of boring. What about this one? Hands in pocket. No, that looks weird. Oh yeah, there you go. You see, it's just trial and error. You find one that looks like it's going to work. What shoes has she got on? She's got the DUH heels. I think that does that. So you see there, I went to selected the heels, poses, and there it was. Okay, because it's selecting it based upon the product. I'm going to lift her up. She's no, not those. The actual figure. Oh, she looks a lot taller now. Blimey, maybe they suddenly that. Yeah, that's fine. All right, now let's go to top view. Let's line her up on the translate. So you get the first thing you've got to get is the body. You got the overall body in position. Go back to the camera. Yeah, that looks right. Go back to top view again. Get that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the shoulder. Let me zoom in here. So just rotate that shoulder forward. Because if I was to move the hand, it would end up dragging the shoulder in a way that is probably undesirable. Unless, of course, I could probably pin the shoulder and then drag the hand that way. But it's actually it was quicker for me to just do it this way. Going to just have a 3D scan around here. Yeah, that looks about right. Although actually, she's so tall that it's going to be a bit of a struggle to get a hand. You can see her hand's almost outstretched there. I'm going to have to cheat. Oh no, if I scale that chair, it's going to break everything. Alright, well, what we're going to do, because obviously I'm conscious of the time spent on this, going to just have her just lightly touching the chair, I think. Just rotate that shoulder around, twist it. No, not that one. That's it. That one. And the forearm. Twist the forearm. Okay. Just move the hand out there, and then power pose. Just lightly touching the chair. Get that middle finger out. Just do the forearm. I don't think we need to twist the shoulder. So you can see the contact there with the finger on the chair just by doing just that single finger bone. There's a slight thing on the actual saved pose that's messed around with the finger a little bit there. Normally I'd do a 0 pose on the hand, but for now let's not bother with that. Okay, Sansa was easy, Kayla was hard on this one. Sitting poses are much harder. Okay, oh, we're almost there. So now we've got the two of them, the two of the bodies are set up. Now we've got to think about their heads and their expressions. So let's go to the camera. So this is, we'll just frame that. I'm going to talk about framing in the next video of how we frame our scene. But for now, let's just get that frame sorted out. Let's do it. Going to be a 9x16. There you go. Yeah, that's perfect. So let's get them both looking at the camera. I've got a little script there, which I'm going to talk again about in the next scene, in the next video. Select both of those, and then I've got look at camera. This is an absolutely fantastic mod, which allows me to just preview that, turn iRay on. Actually, that's not bad. That's not bad. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So in terms of expressions, we're gonna have to zoom in a little bit because I'm running on a 1080 monitor here, not my usual 4K, just for the demo purposes of the video. But let's say we want to look at Sansa. We just go to perspective. We'll just give him a basic smile. Okay. So here, for expressions, I usually have iRay turned on because I find that they're very subtle, and you need to see what they're looking like in real time. Let's give her a smile. Yeah, that's fine. That's not bad. Just going to drop her eyes a little bit here. Just give her a bit of a blink. Not too much. Very subtle on the eye blinks. Maybe a bit more of a smile. I can do a combo smile here, 1 and 2. Yeah, that's okay. She's happy. She's happy just to be stood there behind Kayla's chair. Alright. Excellent. Alright, now Kayla, let's give her a bit more of a complex look. If we can. Why is she looking that way? She's looking at the camera in a very strange way. What's going on with her? What's going through your mind, Kayla? Don't quite know. I think it's the camera has done something with her eyes. Right, now, okay, now you see here, this rig is very different. Because she's a Genesis 8, she's not an 8.1. So we actually have to individually adjust her upper and lower eyelids. Okay. In fact, her head needs to be lifted up a bit. That's the problem. So we go to power pose. And then lift her head. And just a little bit that way. Go back to the camera and run that script again. Okay, and just go back again. Yeah, that's better. Right, okay. Yeah, that's a neutral expression, which is actually pretty good. Now, she does not have access to Lacey's expressions because she's an 8, she's as opposed to an 8.1. However, she does come with her own expression. And it's Redstone's Kayla smile expression, so we can give her that. Yeah, that works. Very nice. Okay, I'm not going to do too much more tweaking of this. I think we've pretty much got the scene that we want. Yeah, I like that. I like that. That's good. Alright, from 0 to hero, we did it. Okay, so let's render that, and we're done. Okay, and there it is. There's Kayla and Sansa. Chair scene 001. All rendered in beautiful iRay 4K. So that took us we saw from a 0 T-pose on both models within, I think, a space of about 20 minutes, 30 minutes. We got them fully rigged and using a combination of translations, rotations on individual bones, power posing with the hands particularly, and then the expressions, some preloaded expressions and preloaded poses, certainly for Kayla initially on the seating, and also preloaded standing pose for Sansa. High heels settings. I think that's pretty much everything. Alright, I hope by now you've gained an understanding of the various ways in that you compose your characters and bring them to life. In the next video, we'll be getting into the essential subject of cameras, including field of view, depth of view, focusing, and framing. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, then please like and subscribe and leave a comment. You can learn more about my art by following me at Generation 3DX on DeviantArt. I'll see you in the next video.